What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So I think that this came out yesterday, but it must have came out like really late yesterday because I don't know how I would have missed this. I think I definitely would have did a video about this yesterday. But anyways, more cards from Dimension of Chaos, and they're from the BLS family, and it looks like this is going to be a full-on archetype. It's not just going to be the new ritual, and you know they have like the two kind of like the Twilight of the End, Twilight, like the two level 4s and whatnot. Like I thought, okay, they've got a new Gaia, they've got a new ritual, maybe a couple of new level 4s, like that's gonna be it. No, they're like, you can see there's multiple Gaias, there's another BLS, there's Kuriboh integrated into kind of the mix, and they're getting their own traps and everything. So it's gonna be a new full-on archetype, and we're gonna talk about some of the cards. And I guess it kind of has a little bit of a Yugi influence, because didn't he use when he was summoning the original BLS in the match versus I believe it was in top 4 on Duelist Kingdom, didn't he use Kuriboh as like part of the ritual summon? So I mean, maybe that's why Kuriboh is integrated into the archetype. So first up, we have the Sacred Blackluster Soldier. It is it's a light warrior, level 8, 3,000, 2,500 defense. I believe those are the same exact stats, and basically everything was just copied straight from the Envoy of the beginning, like the stat line, the monster attribute, the type and stuff like that. It says you can only use the one effect of Sacred Blackluster Soldier once per turn. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one of your light or dark banished monsters and one card your opponent controls. Return the first target to the graveyard, and if you do, banish the second target. Effect number 2, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can target one level 7 or lower warrior monster in your graveyard, add it to the hand. So this card is, like, to me, like really reminiscent of the original Blackluster Soldier, the Chaos one, the Envoy, obviously. And the fact that it has 2 effects, and they're both like, both of these effects are pretty freaking amazing. The fact is, as long as you have something chaos related banished, you're probably gonna get a plus when you summon this guy. You can just essentially nuke something on the board that your opponent has. Like, that seems really good. And the fact is, being able to put something back into the graveyard is also good, because you know, the chaos monsters, they work on banishing things. So like a lot of these cards have secondary effects where you banish them from the graveyard and they'll do something, or you can banish them from the graveyard to perform ritual summons. So it seems like if you're putting stuff back into the graveyard, it's just advantageous for the deck. And then the second effect of just being able to run over something your opponent has in battle, and then essentially just tutor for a card, like the 2 level 4s. I mean, they're both targets, so you can just add them both. And then I believe you can just add all the, yeah, you can pretty much just add all the Gaia cards too, like all, yeah, this Gaia, the new one, and or the other new one, and everything, because I believe the Gaias are level 7. So this card has 2 effects, and from what I can see, they're both really good. And of course, this doesn't just work on monsters, it works on back row as well. So the card is pretty freaking insane, and the fact that you can like soul charge it and still trigger the effect is pretty damn nutty. All right, so next up we have Awakened Gaia, the Fierce Knight. It is a dark, which old Gaia I believe was Earth, like the original Gaia, the Fierce Knight. Stat line is the same from all the Gaia cards, 2,300, 2,100 defense, level 7. You can only use the number 2 effect of Awakened Gaia, the Fierce Knight, once per turn. Effect number 1, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can normal summon this card without a tribute. Okay, that's legitimate. If this card is tributed, you can special summon one Blackluster Soldier monster from your hand or the graveyard. Hello, this guy. And hello, when he's summoned from the graveyard, he'll get his ridiculously powerful effect of just being able to fucking banish something, as long as you have like a chaos card removed or something like that. Let's continue with the effect. Effect number 3, if you ritual summon a Blackluster Soldier monster, which again, they have a new version coming out that's really good, you can banish this card from your graveyard as one of the monsters required for the ritual summon. So this is what I was talking about. Essentially, a lot of these cards have effects when they're in the graveyard. They're kind of like the Djinn, essentially. You can just banish them, and you can just kind of perform your ritual summon that way, which is good because it combos with this effect, and it makes the card have way more utility when it dies. Next up, we're talking about a new Kuriboh called Kuriboh. It's a Dark Fiend effect monster, level 1, 300, 200 defense. If this card is tributed, draw 1 card. Well, I mean, ritual summons are tribute, so I'm thinking that you're definitely going to want to use this with a ritual summon, but you can also use it for any of the Gaia cards. I mean, if this card is ritual summon, or if this card is tribute summon, then you automatically get a ridiculous effect where you can just like summon this BLS back. But imagine if you tributed this for part of that tribute summon, you get the draw and get your BLS. Like, you can't tell me that wouldn't be combo-licious and actually pretty good. And then the second effect is also pretty good. If you control, or excuse me, if a monster you control would be destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead. So this card actually has, again, much utility from the graveyard. If somehow like your opponent is gonna run over one of the crazy BLS cards in this deck, which they're all like 3,000 attacks, so I don't really see that happening. You can essentially just banish this Kuriboh, the Kuriboh, from the graveyard and just protect your monster. So the card to me seems pretty legitimate, especially if you're going to be using it for ritual summons. We also have Kuriboh, which okay, same stat line and attribute, same type as the other one. It's a Dark Fiend, 300, 200. If an opponent's monster attacks, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, change that attack to this defense, or change that attack monster to defense position. That kind of leaves a lot to be desired. Effect number 2. If you ritual summon a monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard as one of the monsters required for the ritual summon. So if you're ritual summoning 8s, you could essentially use this Kuriboh and this Gaia like from the graveyard. You could just ritual summon for free, not even having to pay 8 stars. You'd already have 8 stars just in your graveyard. This card is okay. I don't think the first effect is that good. It's kind of like an enemy controller, I guess you can just activate from the hand, so it's not terrible, but the monster does have to attack, so it's not like you can just use it whenever you want. It is like a trigger effect. Next up, looks like they're getting a field spell. It's called Chaos Field. You can only activate 1 Chaos Field per turn, so the effect must be pretty good. When this card is activated, you can add 1 Blackluster Soldier Ritual Monster or Gaia the Fierce Knight Monster from your deck to the hand. Okay, that sounds a lot like Oracle of the Zephyr. Yeah, okay, well, essentially this field spell is a Rhoda built into it, which makes sense why you can only activate once per turn. Effect number 2, each time a monster or monsters is sent from the hand or the field to the graveyard, put 1 spell counter on this card for each monster sent, max 6. Effect number 3, once per turn, you can remove 3 spell counters from this card, add 1 ritual spell card from your deck to your hand. This card is really good. I mean, the fact is, at worst, it's just a Rhoda for either a Gaia or a ritual BLS. And at best, it can just essentially get the BLS and the ritual spell. So the card could end up being a +1. And I like the fact that it counts monsters. I mean, I wonder if, like, all right, you for some reason have 5 monsters on the field, and your opponent torrentials like on the fifth monster that would be summoned. Like if you get 5 counters each time, no, it says each time, so that would count as 1 time, so it wouldn't count. I mean, I don't know how easy it's going to be essentially to get this up to 6, but I mean, really you only have to just get it to 3, and you can start adding cards for free. All right, now we have Transmigration of the Supreme Soldier. Okay, this card's going to get limited because it has Transmigration in the name. It's a normal trap. You can only activate 1 Transmigration of the Supreme Soldier per... Oh, wait. You can only activate 1 Transmigration of the Supreme Soldier. It doesn't say per turn. I was like, hold on. Why did it go straight to the effect? Effect number 1, target 1 Blackluster monster you control, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon 1 Blackluster Soldier monster with a different name from your hand, ignoring the summoning conditions. Effect number 2, during your main phase, except the turn that this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard to target 1 Blackluster Soldier monster in your graveyard, add it to the hand. Okay, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. All right, so the first effect seems like it could actually be okay, because it could essentially dodge things like it could make you dodge things like I'm trying to think, Mirror Force if you summon the next monster in defense mode, Book of Moon, kind of like any type of targeting cards. You could essentially trade out the BLS that's being targeted for a new BLS, as long as it again has a different name. That actually means that it says ignoring the summoning condition, so I believe you can summon the Envoy with this as well. And then in the main phase too, or the second effect is pretty good, to be honest. It tutors a BLS card straight from the graveyard to your hand, so it's like Warrior Returning Alive for BLS cards. As long as it isn't during the same turn that it's sent, it has the breakthrough skill condition built right into it. But the whole deck seems to trigger in the graveyard, which I'm definitely liking. Next up, we have a counter trap. Okay, I'm guessing, you know, because of the game and the way it is now, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be like an Infernity Barrier type card, because every archetype needs an Infernity Barrier, right? So this is called Shield of the Supreme Soldier. It's a counter trap. It says when a monster effect or a spell or trap that would target a monster on the field is activated while you control a Blackluster Soldier monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Okay, so essentially it is Infernity Barrier as long as something targets. But you have to control a Blackluster Soldier monster to actually activate this card. Effect number 2, if this card is in your graveyard, you can remove one spell counter from your side of the field. Set this card from your graveyard to your side of the field, but banish it if it leaves the field. Okay, that's a little difficult to wrap your head around, but actually it seems really good. The problem is, if you do use this second effect, your opponent, like, what are the chances of your opponent actually playing into that shit? Like, they know that it is set, and they're definitely not going to play any target. Like, if they have Mystical Space Typhoon or Book of Moon, like, there's no way in hell they're going to burn it until they actually can kill your BLS, which means I guess they'll have to use, mass removal cards. They won't be able to deprison or Castel or 101 or something like that. But the fact that it can essentially be used twice just by removing a spell counter is pretty good. I kind of wish that they would have built that into like earlier cards. That would have been actually pretty nuts, because it does have to be a targeting card. And again, I could see this resolving once. It's just it's really hard for me to imagine your opponent essentially letting you get this card off twice when they already know you have it set. And then the last card, yes sir, this is actually the last card, is Soul of the Supreme Soldier. I actually read this card and I was like, this card's pretty legit. It's a warrior effect monster, level 1, and kind of looks like a shrine. I believe that isn't that the shrine from the Blackluster ritual that was originally with the original Blackluster Soldier, the ritual version. I believe this is like the shrine from that artwork. All right, it says you can only use each effect of Soul of the Supreme Soldier once per turn. Effect number 1, you can send one Blackluster Soldier monster from your hand to the graveyard until the end of your opponent's next end phase. This card gains 3,000 attack, legitimate. Megamorph combos, here we come. Also, its name becomes Blackluster Soldier. Hello for this. Oh, you wanted the Book of Moon, my guy? Nope, I technically control a Blackluster Soldier monster now. Effect number 2, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add one Night of the Beginning or Night of the Evening Twilight from your deck to your hand. So essentially, if you have a dead BLS in your hand, like the Envoy one, if you have this one in your hand and you can't get it out of your hand, all you have to do is just pitch it. This dude gets 3,000 attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. He becomes a freaking ridiculously high beater, and when he dies, you can just banish it and get yourself like a free one of these guys. You won't even need the road or anything like that. So card actually seems pretty good. I mean, it can't do anything by itself, but the fact that it can become 3,000 for just a normal monster that you can summon is actually pretty good. And I know why they made it that you can only use the effect once per turn is because, could you imagine if you actually had like 2 BLSs and 2 of these, and like you normal summon one of these and like Call the Haunted the other, you'd essentially be able to do like 6,000. Technically, even if you just normal summon this and use the effect and then like summon the regular BLS, the Envoy one, like you could do 6,000 anyway. So this card could potentially open up like some OTKs in some very obscure ways, because you could, like, the nuttiest combo I can think of, or the easiest, would be summon this, pitch this card become, or the soul becomes 3,000 attack, and then just call the haunted disc, and then you basically have 6,000 damage on board for just 2 cards. But even better, you get to trigger this guy's effect because it was special summon. So if your opponent has like a mirror force, you can just banish that shit as long as you have like a chaos monster remove, and you can meet the conditions of this card getting its banish effect. So let me know what you guys think. It's cool that this is becoming its own archetype. It actually looks really cool, and it makes a lot of sense that it's in the dimension of chaos, which I guess technically this is where the set's name comes from. The dimension of chaos is all about the Blackluster Soldier and stuff. I was under the impression that it was the dimension of chaos was like something about synchros and whatnot, but nope, it must revolve around this. So thank you guys for watching as always.